Hey there, you insightful listener, and welcome back to another deep dive.
Yeah, welcome.
Today, we're taking maybe a bit of a fascinating turn. We're stepping away from the usual research papers for a bit,
Right.
and we're plunging into something really packed with practical wisdom, the Peace Corps Life Skills and Leadership Manual.
Hmm. That sounds interesting.
Now, you might be thinking, okay, a manual for youth, what's really in it for me? But honestly, trust us on this one.
Yeah,
The insights here about personal growth, leadership, navigating life, they're surprisingly powerful. And they apply no matter, where you are on your journey.
exactly. You can think of this manual almost like a toolkit, really.
Hmm.
It's packed with session plans, ways to look at how we connect with ourselves, how we build relationships,
Uh-huh.
make smarter choices, handle life's, well, twists and turns.
Right.
It's really wisdom distilled through hands-on learning. Lots of activities, discussions, moments to really think things through.
Okay.
So our goal today is basically to pull out the most valuable, actionable nuggets for you, the listener.
Absolutely. Our mission, if you choose to stick with us and you're listening, is
Yeah.
to mine this manual for those key life skills, the
Yeah.
ones that can genuinely make a difference in your personal development, your ability to lead, whether that's leading a team or, just leading your own life.
And we're going to uncover some really interesting territory. We'll explore things like how to pinpoint the strengths you already have,
Okay.
understand those, well, often turbulent changes of adolescence, which surprisingly can echo in our adult transitions too,
That's a good point.
and really build that solid core of self-belief.
Plus, we'll get into some really crucial stuff like understanding what truly drives you, your core values,
Yeah.
recognizing that everyone operates with their own unique perspective, what the manual calls mental models,
Mental
and
models.
really importantly, how to manage stress and, find your footing when things get tough.
And we'll also be looking at concrete skills, things like communicating more effectively,
Oh,
especially the nuances of truly listening and communicating positively.
that's key.
We'll tackle making better decisions using a pretty thoughtful framework, and even how to reframe those seemingly negative situations into opportunities for growth.
And because we rarely go it alone, right? We'll dive into the dynamics of conflict and collaboration, learn how to set goals that actually stick, plan for the future you want,
Yeah.
and finally get a really solid grasp on the fundamentals of leadership and teamwork. So, ready to dig in?
Let's do it. Where do we start?
Let's start with a foundational piece, recognizing what we already bring to the table, our strengths.
Okay. The manual introduces a really useful concept here through its Becoming Resilient framework.
Right.
And a key activity involves participants identifying the assets they already possess, their strengths, talents, available resources,
Mm-hmm.
alongside those they want to cultivate. It's about recognizing we all have a starting point,
Yeah.
even if it's not always obvious.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. So it's about acknowledging you're not starting from scratch.
Exactly.
You have skills, experiences, support systems, even if you haven't, fully mapped them out yet.
Right. And as the manual highlights, these assets directly fuel our ability to overcome obstacles and achieve what we aim for.
They're the resources you draw upon.
Precisely. The manual uses this helpful analogy, suggesting our assets are like building blocks for our character,
Ah, building blocks.
or maybe tools in a toolbox. These
Mhm.
are the fundamental elements we use to construct our lives, tackle challenges.
Right.
And what's interesting is how universally this applies. Whether you're building a career, a family, a personal project, these core assets are what you rely on.
I like that analogy. It makes something kind of abstract feel very concrete.
Yeah.
And beyond just personal traits, the manual also touches on these developmental assets. Now, these are framed for young people, focused on external supports.
Mm-hmm.
But that underlying principle, having a strong support system, that resonates at any age, surely.
Absolutely. These include things like, well, having supportive family relationships, caring neighbors,
Okay.
a positive environment in your community or even your workplace. Then there's empowerment, feeling valued, having opportunities to contribute.
Right, feeling like you matter.
Yeah. And clear boundaries, positive influences also play a big role, along with constructive ways to spend your time, hobbies, learning, community involvement.
So things around you, not just in you.
Exactly. Recognizing and even cultivating these external assets can be just as vital as identifying our internal strengths.
It's about building a strong foundation, really, both within yourself and with the resources around you.
Well said.
Now, speaking of navigating challenges, the manual dedicates a good chunk of time to understanding adolescence.
Ah, yes, the teenage years.
And while those specific years might be, behind many of us, the insights here, they can offer a surprisingly useful lens for understanding transitions in general.
That's true. In our own lives and in the lives of people around us.
So what does it outline?
The manual outlines 4 key areas of change during adolescence: physical, mental, emotional, and social.
The big four.
Right. And it's important to remember, as the manual stresses, these changes unfold at different speeds, different intensities for everyone. It's not like a uniform process.
No, definitely not. It's highly personal. And to illustrate the kinds of challenges and confusions that often pop up, the manual uses these short personal dramas.
Oh, yeah, those little scenarios,
Th-
they really make the abstract concrete.
Give us an example.
Okay, take Lay. She suddenly feels intensely self-conscious, convinced everyone is watching her.
Sounds familiar.
Right. This reflects those shifts in early to middle adolescence. Self-awareness, social anxieties kicking in.
Yeah,
And you can see how assets like self-acceptance, positive self-talk, which we'll get to, could be so helpful there.
definitely. Or what about Poe? He's struggling with physical changes, feeling out of sync with his peers, his usual activities.
Right. Clearly in the physical realm. But it has major knock-on effects, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Emotionally, socially.
Tot-
So a supportive peer group, finding activities that highlight different strengths. Those could be key assets for navigating that.
Yeah.
Shows how changes ripple.
Exactly. Then there's Najat dealing with parental expectations, more responsibility, wanting independence.
Ah, the classic tension. That's late social, early mental adolescent development territory.
Right.
And skills in effective communication, understanding boundaries, those become really important assets there. It's a balancing act many adults still relate to, just in different contexts.
Like career progression, maybe, or family roles.
Exactly.
And Amaya's story grappling with the future, juggling thoughts about marriage, career, family.
That captures the mental and emotional whirlwind of early to middle adolescence for sure.
Yeah.
Decision-making skills, grounded in knowing your values, can act like a compass then.
Yeah.
It reminds us that big life choices, even when they seem far off, create stress now.
And Ismailia, taking on more adult responsibilities, navigating complex relationships.
Yeah, that indicates a later stage social and emotional maturity developing.
Requires different assets then.
Definitely. Things like responsibility, empathy, well-developed interpersonal skills. Think how crucial those still are throughout life, professionally and personally.
Always. Adolfo's scenario touches on future planning, relationship dynamics, shifting priorities. Again, a mix of mental and social development.
Right. And assets like goal setting, building healthy relationships, they become vital as our priorities evolve, whatever our age.
And Raja, feeling confused, anxious about relationships, parents, future direction.
Very typical of middle to late adolescence.
Yeah.
A real intersection of social, emotional, mental changes.
So what helps there?
Assets like stress management techniques, a strong sense of self, those can be invaluable anchors during that kind of uncertainty.
Yeah.
And haven't we all felt pulled in multiple directions sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. And Lana's conflict with her father over her relationship.
That highlights the emotional intensity, the evolving social dynamics of late adolescence.
Yes.
Here, assets like conflict resolution skills, knowing who your trusted support network is, those are critical.
What's really striking is how these dramas, though focused on teenagers, they often echo the external conflicts we face throughout our lives, just, dressed in different clothes.
Absolutely. Understanding these phases, even looking back, gives us more understanding of ourselves, maybe more empathy for others going through big transitions.
Teenagers or adults navigating major life changes.
And as the manual suggests, recognizing the dominant developmental areas at play helps us pinpoint which assets might be most helpful in those situations.
Okay, so once we have a better handle on ourselves, a cornerstone of personal growth has got to be self-confidence.
Definitely.
The manual dedicates a whole session to this, really emphasizing its connection to positive behavior.
Yeah, the idea is pretty straightforward. Believing yourself, you're more likely to take positive actions.
Makes sense.
The rationale is clear. Strong self-confidence, belief in our capabilities, we're much more inclined to engage positively, less likely to be swayed by negativity or self-doubt.
Right.
And the manual introduces a fantastic activity called the graffiti wall to help cultivate this.
Ooh, tell us about the graffiti wall. Sounds engaging.
It is. Participants get markers, anonymously write positive characteristics they see in themselves and in others on a big sheet of paper at the wall.
Ah, so it's collective.
Exactly. It becomes this visual tapestry of positive attributes within the group,
Hmm.
and it can be surprisingly impactful to see how others perceive you,
Yeah, I bet.
often highlighting strengths you might not fully see in yourself. It's a collective self-esteem boost.
That sounds really powerful, fostering a shared sense of worth. And it connects directly to another vital aspect,
Mm-hmm.
how we talk to ourselves, that internal dialogue.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The manual strongly emphasizes consciously reframing those internal put-downs into build-ups.
Turning negatives into positives.
Right. It even gives concrete examples, like instead of, I'm not good at anything, you learn to say, I have many valuable skills and talents. Or, I always mess things up, becomes, I'm learning and growing with every experience. It's about actively challenging those negative stories we tell ourselves.
It's about taking control of that inner voice, isn't it? Because those negative thoughts, if you just let them run,
They chip away.
yeah, they chip away at confidence over time. The manual uses this compelling analogy. Criticism is like debris damaging our house, our sense of self.
Hmm.
But just like you can repair a house, you can actively rebuild self-esteem through positive affirmations, a more constructive internal dialogue.
And this conscious practice of positive self-talk, combined with recognizing your existing assets, that becomes a really powerful shield.
The shield.
Yeah, for weathering those inevitable storms of criticism and safeguarding our self-esteem and confidence.
Okay, that makes sense. Now let's shift focus a bit to something that profoundly shapes who we are and the choices we make, our personal values.
Ah, values. Crucial stuff. The manual dedicates a specific session to exploring these guiding principles.
So how does it define values?
It defines them as our fundamental beliefs about what is good. Those core principles that guide our lives, heavily influence our decisions, how we interact with the world.
Right, like if you deeply value fairness.
Exactly. That principle will likely shape how you handle disagreements or make ethical choices. It's the internal compass we keep returning to.
Our internal navigation system guiding us. And the manual uses a really thought-provoking activity called What's Most Valuable?
Oh, this one's good. Participants get a list of values. Choose the 5 that resonate most strongly.
Okay, the top 5.
Then comes the challenging part. Through hypothetical scenarios, they're asked to progressively lose or give up one value at a time.
Wow!
Yeah, it forces them to really confront which principles are absolutely non-negotiable.
That sounds intense. Like choosing which part of yourself you can't live without.
It can be emotionally engaging, for sure, and the discussion afterwards is key.
What do they discuss?
How they felt giving up values, what reactions they saw in others. It also prompts deeper thought about real-life compromises.
Right, when you have to compromise on values.
Exactly. How do you navigate those choices while staying true to what's fundamentally important? This exercise often reveals not just what we say we value,
Uh-huh.
but what we instinctively protect when faced with a tough choice. Gives a deeper understanding of our motivations.
It's a powerful way to understand the hierarchy of our values, how they really inform decisions and dilemmas. Now, building on that idea of our own internal framework, the manual introduces mental models.
Yes, this is a particularly insightful concept. Mental models are essentially our individual lenses.
Lenses.
Yeah, how we see and interpret the world around us, shaped by our unique experiences, culture, values, all that stuff.
So my understanding of a situation might be quite different from yours. Not because one of us is wrong,
Exactly.
but because we're processing the same info through different filters shaped by our unique lives.
Precisely. And to illustrate this, the manual uses an activity called the values continuum.
Values continue.
Yeah. Participants physically position themselves along a spectrum in response to statements showing agreement or disagreement.
Oh, so you physically move.
Right.
Right.
It visually demonstrates how different mental models lead to a wide range of opinions, even on seemingly straightforward topics.
A tangible representation of differing viewpoints. And the key takeaway, as the manual emphasizes,
And that these models aren't about being right or wrong, they're just different.
right,
The manual uses that analogy of looking out of different house windows, same street, different vantage point, shapes what you see and understand.
that's a great analogy.
Recognizing this is fundamental for fostering more understanding, more empathy in our interactions.
It helps move away from immediate judgment towards, like, appreciating why others see things differently.
Exactly, which is so important.
Okay, now, Life inevitably throws curveballs. So the manual dedicates significant attention to managing stress and emotions, essential skills.
Absolutely essential. The manual uses a really relatable analogy here, the weight of stress.
Weight of stress.
Yeah, they literally add books to a bag carried by a volunteer. It vividly illustrates how accumulating responsibilities, stressors,
Mm-hmm.
it just becomes overwhelming.
No, I can picture that. That feeling of carrying too much, too many demands pulling you.
Totally. And to delve deeper into our emotional landscape, they suggest role-playing.
Role-playing stressful situations.
Yeah, participants invent and act out stressful scenarios. Then the group identifies the specific emotions the individuals might have been feeling.
So it builds emotional literacy.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Helps us better recognize and understand the different ways stress manifests in ourselves and others.
Giving names to those feelings, bringing them into awareness. And the manual connects stress to unmet needs, right?
Yes, a crucial connection. The emphasis on unmet needs as a root of stress is powerful. It reminds us managing symptoms isn't always enough.
Right.
Often stress isn't random. It arises when fundamental needs for connection, autonomy, feeling valued, purpose aren't being met. Identifying those underlying unmet needs is a key step in really understanding and ultimately reducing the stress we feel. Addressing those needs leads to more sustainable well-being.
So not just reacting to the feeling of stress, but digging deeper for the root causes. And thankfully, it offers practical strategies too.
Yes. Concrete techniques, like reaching out, talking to someone you trust,
Simple but effective.
engaging in physical activity to release tension, intentionally spending time alone for quiet reflection,
Hmm.
practicing relaxation exercises. It even includes a specific guided relax and chill exercise as a tool for calming down in the moment.
Simple, actionable things we can actually do. Now, moving beyond everyday stresses.
Yeah.
What about the bigger challenges? Navigating truly tough times, building resilience.
Right, that vital ability to bounce back. The manual acknowledges everyone faces difficult times beyond daily stressors, loss, trauma, big spat-backs.
Yeah.
And to illustrate resilience, it shares the story of Nelson Mandela.
A powerful example, transforming immense hardship into hope and opportunity.
Exactly. Shows the human spirit's capacity to not just endure, but find a way forward, even thrive.
So how does the manual help us tap into that?
It includes an activity called Being a Survivor.
Okay.
Individuals reflect on past challenges they've personally navigated privately, no need to share details, and identify the survival strategies they used.
So recognizing your own history of getting through things.
Exactly. It's about recognizing our own inner strength, resourcefulness, the coping mechanisms we've already used successfully.
It reframes those past negative experiences, maybe, not just things that happened to us,
Right.
but as opportunities for learning, personal growth.
Hmm.
Recognizing we have navigated tough times successfully can be incredibly empowering, builds that inner strength.
Absolutely. Shifts focus from victimhood towards agency, highlights the lessons learned, strengthens belief in our ability to handle future difficulties.
Okay, so navigating life, handling challenges, effective communication is absolutely paramount.
Couldn't agree more.
And the manual provides a detailed exploration of how to improve these skills, starting with active listening.
Yeah, foundational. It uses a simple but effective analogy, tossing a ball.
Tossing a ball.
Illustrates the flow of communication, pinpoints where breakdowns happen easily, shows how messages get dropped, missed, misinterpreted if we're not fully engaged in listening.
Makes perfect sense. Communication isn't just speaking. It's a two-way street, relies heavily on receiving and understanding. And the manual thoughtfully emphasizes culturally appropriate nonverbal cues for active listening.
This is a really crucial point. What signals active listening in one culture, like direct eye contact, which the manual knows has a North American bias,
Right.
might be perceived very differently, even negatively, elsewhere.
So context matters.
Hugely. The manual wisely encourages exploring what active listening behaviors look like within the specific cultural context of the participants. Vital reminder of cultural nuances.
Really important. And it includes an activity, mirror, mirror, for practicing nonverbal cues.
Yes. Participants pair up. One acts out nonverbal listening cues. The partner guesses the skill being conveyed.
Experiential.
Yeah, hands-on way to develop awareness of body language, eye contact, other subtle signals that significantly impact communication and perception.
And beyond nonverbal signals, what about verbal techniques to show listening?
Yes, techniques like paraphrasing, saying back what the speaker said in your own words to ensure accurate understanding,
Okay, checking comprehension.
and asking clarifying questions, gathering more detail, showing genuine interest.
Hmm.
These verbal cues signal you're not just passively hearing, but actively processing and engaging.
Showing genuine engagement, being truly present. The manual also introduces direct and indirect communication styles.
Exactly. Direct communication is clear, explicit. Indirect relies more on implication, context, nonverbal cues.
Okay.
The manual gives examples, discusses cultural values often associated with each style. Awareness of these styles enhances our ability to communicate effectively across different contexts and with different people.
So being adaptable in our approach, choosing the style that fits the situation, the person.
Precisely. And finally, for positive communication, it introduces a really valuable tool, the I statement formula,
Ah, I statements. Heard of those.
a powerful technique for expressing feelings and needs constructively, without blame. The formula is, when you do this specific behavior, I feel this emotion and I would like this specific action.
Okay, structure helps.
Yeah. The manual gives practical examples for common scenarios, helps communicate needs assertively, clearly, without making the other person defensive.
It's about owning our feelings, articulating needs clearly, reduces misunderstandings, fosters healthier communication.
Absolutely. Shifts focus from blame towards a more collaborative, solution-oriented approach.
Okay, let's pivot to another absolutely crucial life skill, making better decisions. The manual introduces a helpful framework called PAUSE.
Pause. Yeah, a useful acronym. Outlines a structured approach. Pause, ask, understand, select, and evaluate.
A roadmap away from impulsive reactions towards more thoughtful choices.
Exactly.
So break it down. What's pause?
Pause is basically intentionally stopping, taking a moment before reacting or deciding. Creates space for conscious thought, avoids jumping to conclusions or acting impulsively. A buffer.
Makes sense. Resist the urge. Allow time to think. What's after pause?
Ask. Actively exploring all potential options. Brainstorming possibilities, considering a wide range, not just the obvious first solutions. Expanding your field of vision.
Broadening horizons, considering diverse paths. Then, after identifying options, comes understand.
Right. Understand is about carefully considering potential consequences for each option. Thinking critically what might happen, positive outcomes, negative repercussions.
Mm.
The manual even suggests multiple perspectives. Head, logic, practicality, heart, emotions, values, hands, social impact, and hope, long-term goals, aspirations.
I like that holistic approach, not just practicalities, but emotions, broader implications. Then, after understanding, we select.
Select the crucial point where you actually make the decision based on your understanding of options, consequences, and ideally aligned with your core values. A conscious, informed choice.
And finally, the often overlooked step, evaluate.
Critically important. Evaluate means reflecting after implementation. As outcomes unfold, did it go as expected? Satisfied with the results? What lessons learned for future decisions?
Right.
Essential for refining judgment over time, continuous learning.
A cycle of learning and refinement. And the manual has activities like question sorting to practice matching questions to pause steps.
Yeah, helps internalize the framework. It also debunks creativity myths to encourage more expansive thinking during the ask stage.
How so?
By tackling misconceptions like only certain people are creative, it opens avenues for more imaginative problem solving, generating a wider range of options.
Which leads us neatly to another key skill, turning negative situations into positive ones through creative thinking.
Right. The manual really emphasizes that even within problems, opportunities often lie hidden.
How does it introduce this?
It kicks off with a fun animal sounds game as a warm-up. Helps loosen up minds, get creative juices flowing lightly.
A bit of fun to break down barriers.
Exactly. And to illustrate reframing problems, it shares the abandoned cars story.
Ah, the Chicago example.
Yeah.
Young people seeing derelict cars not just as an eyesore.
But as a potential resource.
Right.
Through creative resourcefulness, community engagement, they turned them into public art.
Improving the environment, fostering community pride. A powerful shift in perspective.
Truly highlights seeing beyond negativity, actively searching for ways to create something positive from a challenge. And there's an activity from bad to better to practice this shift.
How does that work?
Participants take a problem, redefine it not just as an obstacle, but a potential opportunity, they ask. who's hurt by this, and who might benefit if it's resolved creatively.
Reframing to reveal hidden angles, unseen possibilities for positive action.
Exactly. Learning to look at challenges through a different lens,
Yeah.
seeking benefits and growth where you initially only see difficulties.
And the manual connects creative thinking to resisting peer pressure, too.
Yes, highlighting finding both direct and indirect ways to confidently say no when faced with situations against your values or goals.
So creative thinking helps generate alternative responses, strategic approaches for those tricky social situations.
Precisely.
Okay, let's turn now to those inevitable moments when needs, desires, perspectives clash. Conflict.
Conflict. The manual offers valuable insights into understanding and resolving it and fostering collaboration generally.
How does it start?
With a simple but effective pushing palms activity, illustrates our natural tendency to resist direct pressure in conflict. Visually shows how easily things escalate into a power struggle. Push back harder.
Most of us can relate to that instinctive pushback when someone tries to force their will. Very natural.
hmm And to broaden understanding, it shares the classic blind man and an elephant story.
Right, illustrating how individual perspectives are limited, how we need others' viewpoints for a fuller picture.
A great reminder, there's almost always more to a situation than our own limited vantage point. And a key concept the manual introduces is distinguishing positions from underlying interests.
Explain that difference.
A position is what someone outwardly states they want, their demand or solution. An interest is what they truly care about underneath needs, values, motivations, desires.
Okay.
The manual emphasizes focusing on identifying and addressing shared interests, not just getting stuck on opposing positions. That often leads to mutually beneficial, creative solutions.
So digging deeper than the stated demand to understand the why, the core needs and values.
Exactly. And to foster a collaborative mindset, it introduces the simple but effective yes and activity.
Ah, the improv technique. Instead of yes, but, which often shuts things down.
Right. Yes and. Encourages building on ideas. Fosters a more positive, collaborative, creative environment where new possibilities emerge. Keeps the flow going.
Building positive momentum together. And finally, in collaboration, it explains levels of agreement.
Yes, a useful framework for gauging and expressing different degrees of support for an idea from full agreement to strong disagreement.
So acknowledging nuance.
Exactly. Helps everyone understand where others stand, facilitates more inclusive, effective decision-making, creates space for diverse viewpoints, finding common ground even without full consensus.
Very practical. Now, thinking about moving forward, achieving aspirations, the manual guides on setting goals and planning for the future.
Yeah, really practical stuff here. It underscores the importance of a clear personal vision, what you ultimately want to achieve.
And how present actions connect to that vision.
Right. How our actions now either propel us closer or steer us away, aligning daily steps with larger aspirations, consciously connecting day-to-day choices with long-term goals.
Making sure we're moving in a meaningful direction. And to make aspirations concrete, it introduces the SMART goal framework.
Yes, the widely recognized SMART: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Clear criteria for defining goals to make them more achievable.
So not just get healthier, but something specific and trackable, like exercise 30 minutes 3 times a week, cut sugary drinks, lose 5 pounds by next month.
Exactly. Much more focused. And to refine the vision and map it out, there's the My Surprising Future activity.
What's that involve?
Imagining yourself a few years ahead, writing a detailed story of your success, describing the concrete steps taken to get there.
Powerful visualization
Yeah.
helps identify actions and resources needed.
Yeah, creates a compelling narrative. Then you work backward to identify milestones and steps needed now. The manual also guides on creating a comprehensive action plan.
Breaking down big goals into smaller steps.
Right. Identifying assets you have, assets you need, how to get them, how to measure progress and success. There are templates like my target goal and my plan of action for structure.
A detailed roadmap. Steps, resources, timelines. And it uses the full cup analogy for time allocation.
Yes, distinguishing need to, responsibilities, have to,
Yeah.
obligations, and want to, enjoyment, fulfillment. Highlights balancing these for well-being and making time for goals.
Being intentional with our time.
Mindful of how we invest our most precious resource, ensuring it aligns with priorities. It also briefly touches on intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation.
Right, internal drive versus external rewards or pressures. Understanding what drives us helps maintain commitment.
Exactly.
Finally, the manual delves into leadership and effective teamwork. Starts by exploring initial understandings of leadership roles.
tapping into existing experiences, preconceived notions. Then it uses a leadership quotes activity to identify qualities of effective leaders.
Examining quotes to distill traits, behaviors, philosophies, and it introduces situational leadership.
A key concept. Emphasizes there's no single right way to lead. Different situations need different approaches. Effective leaders adapt based on team needs, tasks, circumstances.
Directive in a crisis, collaborative for brainstorming, perhaps.
Precisely. Being adaptable, flexible. And to illustrate diverse team strengths, it uses a puzzle activity.
Where teams solve a puzzle, maybe with mismatched pieces distributed.
Right. Experientially highlights how unique perspectives, skills, contributions are essential. Underscores we're often stronger together, leveraging diverse strengths.
Everyone brings something valuable. The manual also reviews key leadership actions.
Yes, vital actions like inspiring, motivating, offering ideas, facilitating decisions, summarizing discussions, and of course, active listening within the team. A repertoire to draw upon.
And for managing team projects, it introduces a structured project
A
cycle.
five-step framework, identifying goals, planning steps, doing the work, reviewing progress, and celebrating accomplishments. A roadmap for managing projects effectively.
From spark to celebration. And it emphasizes ongoing team reflection, evaluating effectiveness.
Crucial. Regularly checking how the team functions, strength, areas for improvement in communication, collaboration ensures ongoing success and health.
And finally, the simple but powerful act of appreciation.
Yes, genuinely appreciating and acknowledging each member's contributions fosters positivity, support, boosts morale, encourages continued engagement.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, it's really remarkable how much practical, universal wisdom is in this Peace Corps manual, far beyond its initial audience.
Absolutely. We've covered a really broad range: personal growth, leadership, essential life skills, empowering us to navigate life with more understanding, resilience, effectiveness.
And now we really encourage you, our insightful listener, take a moment, reflect on these concepts.
Yeah.
How might identifying strengths, understanding values, improving communication, using pause for decisions, fostering collaboration, how might these apply to your life, your challenges, your goals?
In this manual really emphasizes experiential learning, learning by doing. So here's a thought for you this week. Considering all these assets and skills, what's one small intentional action you could take in the next few days to actively develop or strengthen one of them in your own life? What practical step could you take?
We sincerely hope this deep dive into the Peace Corps Life Skills and Leadership Manual has given you a valuable shortcut, a way to be a bit more well-informed about your own potential and the skills that can help you thrive.
And we definitely invite you to keep exploring these topics. There's always more to learn about ourselves, how we interact with the world. Delving into resources like this can be really enriching for continued growth, personally and professionally.